Thank you for having us both here. We're excited to be at United's headquarters. I mean, being both Chicagoans, we're very proud of United. We were just talking in the hallway. So we're not just saying that. One K.
Yes, and big fan of the app.
We're going to start off with some quick intros. Go ahead. Take it.
Very nice to be here with all of you guys today. I'm Alyona Fedorchenko. I lead the global gum and mints business for Mars. Mars is a family-owned company with several divisions. One of them is Mars Snacking. That's the division that is responsible for chocolate like M&Ms, Snickers, and gum and mints and fruity confections business, and of course Kind. Very nice to be here with you today. Looking forward to your questions.
Thank you. My name is Barron, Gira. I'm based in the Chicago land area, 40 miles west of here, if that's considered Chicagoland. That's where I am. I'm with a company called Volta Charging, also known as Volta Media. We started laying the landscape for EV chargers 13 years ago, believe it or not. Now the time is here where adoption is upon us. And why we're also Volta Media, unlike other Volta charging companies, the difference or point of difference versus ours, so we're not only right in front of commerce, so consumers go about their day, they can use our chargers. Our chargers all have dual-sided 55-inch screens on them. So you as brand or shopper marketers can use those screens to market to consumers right before they head into shop. So thank you for having us here today. So we're going to focus a little bit, because we're talking about a company like yours, heritage of 100 plus years, but how do you reimagine your brands going forward and keep it fresh to the consumer? You have a lot of brands we all know and possibly a lot in your portfolio, but we're going to focus on one today. Do you want to walk us through that a little bit?
Yes. So gum business, and then we're going to talk about gum today. It's about 120 years old. So William Wrigley started the business here in Chicago, and he actually started by selling baking powder and giving out gum as a bonus. And what he realized quite quickly is that it was gum that was more popular than baking powder. So being the good businessman that he was, he switched and started selling gum. So in our portfolio, we have many iconic brands that many of you probably grew up with: Juicy Fruit, Double Mint, Hubba Bubba. Which brand would you, if I ask you, would you think is the biggest global gum brand? Any guesses? Orbit, yes. Very quickly, and yes, and very right. Actually, 1 in every 4 packs of gum sold globally comes from the Orbit brand. Some of you might remember this brand from the 2000s, the Vanessa British blonde advertising, Dirty Mouse, Clean It Up. It was a very successful campaign. It took the brand to the #1 place in the category because it was based on a very powerful insight. If you were given a choice in the morning to only do one thing, brush your teeth or take a shower, which one would you choose? Majority of consumers and people would say brush your teeth because that makes you feel cleaner. And that was the insight behind what gum does for you. It freshens your breath. So this brand has a long heritage. It was on the path to reinvent itself, over the years. And we're going to talk about the ways we are reinventing it at the moment.
Great. So earlier we heard not only from companies with heritage, both Hyatt and United, they were both in segments that were kind of hit tough by the pandemic, right?
Yes. How many of you got hit by the pandemic?
As brands.
As brands. How many of you declined sales more than 50% overnight? As you can imagine, gum business, very impulsive. You see it in store, you buy it. The main need consumers we satisfy is fresh breath. As the pandemic started rolling around the world, we started seeing sales go down 50, 50, 50, 50. So for us, that was quite a moment. We had a moment of, is the gum business dead? Is nobody ever gonna need fresh breath anymore? So we did, as a part of soul searching that we did, to establish the new strategy, we did a lot of quantitative and qualitative research. And actually the results really surprised us. There's one experience for me personally that kind of brings that to life. 2020, in the height of the lockdowns and the pandemic, we were interviewing a nurse in New York, interviewing her over video. She was working in the COVID ward. And you could see the scars on her face from wearing the mask all the time. And what I thought she was going to tell us is, I used to chew a lot of gum, that's why we're interviewing her. I don't anymore because I wear the mask all the time and it doesn't matter anymore. You know, fresh breath is irrelevant. What she told us is that she was chewing gum more than ever before, but because it helped her relieve stress. She was in one of the most stressful situations in her life, and the action of chewing under her mask helped her deal with it and get through the day. So we saw that through the pandemic, the reasons for chewing gum, for either to relieve your stress, when you get that email and you want to respond and your blood pressure goes up, or when you need to do something that you don't want to do to focus, increase significantly. And that's what we lean to as our strategy on Orbit.
Talk a little bit how some of those learnings have come to light. Reimagining, especially Orbit, coming out of COVID and getting these new learnings. How did you bring that to light in the brand message then going forward compared to what it was in the past?
Yeah. So what we heard from our consumers is they were looking for those little tools that could help them reset in those moments of stress. And those moments of stress happen so much during the day. And all the other solutions that people were telling you to deal with your wellness, you know, take a yoga class, do some meditation, go for a walk, take a cup of coffee, they require investment of time, of money. They also take you away from your day. So you have to actually literally step out from what you do, and you can't do that in a meeting of, you know what, you're driving me nuts right now. My blood pressure is going up. I'm going to take a walk and then come back and talk to you, right? You need something that helps you in the moment. And that's something that is accessible, inexpensive, fun. And that's what gum is. So that's what we put it at the heart of our strategy for the brand of a little something that helps you in those moments when you need to recenter. I think we also have a video to bring it to life. And as you can see, majority of our chewers are teens and early 20s. So one of the things that, you know, they chew a lot because, you know, just from the development standpoint, that's when, you know, you don't have a lot of tools to self-regulate. And you're also starting to experience some of the biggest transitions in life that cause you, you know, to experience anxiety, and you need to focus and you need to deal with, help yourself to self-regulate. And you're also still a kid inside, so you want to have fun. So hopefully you've also seen that through the tone of voice. This is not serious. A lot of wellness stuff out there is either inaccessible, expensive, or too serious, right? Focused on the problem you have versus a fun solution that you could have.
Can you talk how you, I love everything that was brought to light in that short video. We saw a lot of different tactics in the marketing or media mix, right? Talk a little bit how you decided which tactics to use, especially considering a lot of those chewers are not necessarily the purchaser, right? So you're marketing to a chewer, hoping that the mom puts it in the basket, right?
Yeah, so the two ways we look at this is exactly right. Who is the chewer? Who is the buyer? A lot of times, it's the same person. You know, if you're in your 20s or late teens, you are in charge of, you got money, you are in charge of your own choices. But when you're on the younger side of the spectrum, you don't. And what we heard a lot from teens is, you know, I take my mom's phone, I put gum in my mom's cart, right? I try to get her to agree to buy this for me, but you know she's probably gonna make her own choice of exactly what she's gonna buy. So it's a mixture of how do we continue to build the relevance with the younger spectrum, but also educate the parents on why this could be good for their children, right? So an interesting fact, if you look at main reasons for why someone chooses gum, when you're a teen, you do choose to relieve stress and anxiety. When you reach about the age of 25, 30, the only thing you chew gum for is freshening. Before a meeting, you know, it's the major reason, right? So to parents, gum is all about freshening. And unless they have a child that has problems with self-regulation and they've already done all the research on, you know, all the Googling to uncover what are the tools to help their child deal with that, they don't know about it. So, you know, we have a dual approach of hitting the teens with what's relevant to them, but also talk to the parents about what gum can do for them and also for their kids. But I think to answer your question on the media, how do we choose the media tactics? Again, we start from where are the teens, right? So if you look at our overall where to spend our money, less than 20% of our money goes in TV. That's not what they're watching. That's not what they're doing. So we focus on where they are, and then how do we reach them with personalized content. So if right now if gum most relevant to you when you're studying, how do we reach you at those times with the right messaging, for example?
As part of that, we heard earlier a little bit on first-party data. So as you're reimagining this brand, you understand you have a base of consumers that are already loyal to you. Then you have a whole other set of consumers in the gum category. They're chewers, possibly chewers of other brands. What kind of data, either you use them internally or externally, to kind of segment those consumers, make sure you maintain your loyalty among your current consumers while you go after others?
It's a great question. Actually, we don't have any loyalty. There's no such thing as brand loyalty in an impulse category. So I see it, I buy it. I have some preferences. So I might like minty blue gum, or I might like fruity gum. I might like this brand. I have a preference for this brand. But if that brand is not here, I'm gonna buy something else. So that's why, because we don't have the loyalty, because we are so impulsive, over 60% of our purchases happens because I saw it and I bought it. That's why it's important to be available, both physically available and mentally available all the time.
And then how do you measure success? And I know it varies, of course, but as you're relaunching and reimagining a brand, that might be different than an established brand that has different metrics. What are some of those metrics that you've been using?
Penetration is the number one focus that we have. So because we don't have the loyalty, because there are very few people out there who chew large amounts of gum, continuous recruitment, continuously reminding what this could do for you, how this brand is culturally relevant, it is absolutely key. So penetration for us is the most important metric.
Got it. And then my last question around all of that, in considering tactics, so you have a host of proven tactics you've used in the past that have been successful to drive penetration and maybe some degree of loyalty. How do you venture out a little bit of that, knowing the landscape has changed and also knowing that you're going after a whole different consumer than maybe you were in the past? What are some of the ways that you lean forward or lean into trying things that haven't been proven for you?
Great question. So I've talked to you about Orbit, which is our biggest brand and the one that we need to continuously reinvent. Another big undertaking that we've taken recently, we actually launched a new brand last year. It's a snacking brand that is created for gamers by gamers in a partnership with Razer, a gaming peripheral company. So we jointly own this brand, and we know that gaming, of course, everyone knows how critical, important, and bigger than so many other legacy industries out there. But what we also know is how can snacks increase or improve that gaming experience, and how many gamers already, for example, chew gum because it helps them focus, right? It helps them stay in the game. But the new way of doing things, so what we've done is to have credibility with this group, because this group can smell bullshit from really far away. So we've partnered with a gaming authority, and we developed all our products jointly with gamers. So that's would be an example of how we do things differently.
Well, I mean, after our prep, of course, I then went and asked my daughter why she chews gum, and it was exactly what you said, right? Kind of the stress relief, and so add that to another data point to reinforce what you've been already doing. Anything else come to mind that you want to get across that we didn't cover?
I'm wondering what questions people have.
Yeah, anyone?
Hi, it's nice to meet you. I'm Will Marenberg. I work for a company called Ground Truth. We work with Mars quite a bit. Understanding, just based on what you're speaking about, being available wherever you're sold seems like it's a priority, because of the impulse of it. How do your tactics differ when you're talking about selling through something like C-Store, where I imagine you're sold more frequently, versus, big box, mass, club, etc.?
Great question. So C-Store is a very important, very important channel. We sort of think about in terms of how many feet are there from the door to where you can pick up a big pack of gum. And it is the stores, for us, it should be, your first and your last entry point into any store. Same way we would think about also, when you think about DCOM, on-demand delivery, how do we put gum within just a few feet from your checkout, right? So that's kind of the thinking in terms of it needs to be there. What differs between channels is driven by who the shopper is. Their assortment would be different, or the activation would be different, right? So in the shop, again, going back to C-Store, younger shopper, more price conscious from the overall ticket amount, right? So we would go with smaller packs and a wider assortment that is more relevant for younger consumers. When you start going towards biggest box stores, that's more of a planned purchase. That's where the mom is buying for the teens larger amounts, and she's more value conscious. So that's where you'll see bigger packs, and again, the activation will be more focused on that.
I'm really fascinated by your brand share insight, which was like Orbit was number one. And I just looked in my bag and I just happened to look. That's what I have. So I guess
Coincidence.
So, but I guess I want to know why. Like you mentioned all these other big brands, Hubba Bubba, these fun brands, these whatever. So what about Orbit in of itself? Is it its form? Is it its packaging? Is its location? Why Orbit as opposed to, like Wrigley Spearmint, which seems to have similar functional benefits? Why did Orbit pop out? Do you have any insight into why Orbit as a brand?
I think it's generations of great marketers before me who truly understood the consumer and the insight, right? And then delivered amazing product and culturally relevant communication. So I think in a lot of ways, it's, marketing is a relay, right? No one takes everything from the beginning to the end. You move on to the next role, someone else steps in. So I would say it's the quality over the years and the spirit of new generation of teens keeps churning. Therefore, you have to continuously reinvent yourself for the next generation of teens. Otherwise, you're going to become dad's gum.
So my name is Leslie. Orbit Bubble Mint is my favorite.
That's the loyalty that exists over there. Yes, Bubble Mint.
Yes, and my kids chew it because I've chewed it, right? But going along with the idea of reimagining the future, so it seems to me, from my experience, the car cup container was one of the innovations in your category in the more recent years. What other innovation do you see for the future?
There's a car cup was a great usage occasion innovation. We actually used Coke as an inspiration, right? And how the fridge pack Coke launched really unlocked a lot of usage. So it was the same for us in terms of where you can have it in your car, very often chewed, or you can have it on your desk. And if you ever put a pack of gum on your desk, just do a little experiment. Buy a bottle and then just see how quickly it goes. In a few days, you look back and be like, oh, where is it, right? Because the key inside there is expendable consumption, very enjoyable. If you see it, you chew it. So that was a great example of innovation. There are other things that we are doing a lot around how might we reinforce those benefits of chewing I've talked about in a way that's relevant to consumers. So what Barron didn't say is that the first question he asked his daughter, when he asked his daughter why she chews gum for stress, was not her first answer. Her first answer was, just like for most of you, is going to be, well, because for fresh breath or because I don't want to eat something else. And only when you start digging and say, but why else? People realize and make that connection, right? So what we're trying to do is through communications and through innovation to help people make that connection faster.
Hey, Gavin McCarthy, you talked about building mental availability. I just was wondering, how do you go about measuring how you're building mental availability? And then as a 100-year-old brand, how do you measure how you're having an impact, building that mental availability with newer and younger consumers?
Yeah, it's a great question. So Orbit is a fantastic example of a brand that has incredible awareness in many of our markets. It will be, close to, it's 95-100% awareness. In many of our markets, Orbit will be equal to gum. It's a very trusted brand also, so people know it will be good quality gum. The metric we keep a lot of it pay attention to is this a brand for me? Because that's how you're going to create the next wave of relevance for the younger generation is this a brand for me? Because am I going to be proud to pull it out, the pack out? I have a 13-year-old who's in middle school right now, and in his school, He's very clear of which one is the brand that everyone choose, meaning his friends, and which one is Dad's gum, right? So it's a brand for me, is one of the most important metrics that in addition to being known and trusted, you also want to be loved.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.